Hey everybody, it's Micah, and welcome back to the Common Sense Show. And today I wanted to do this live because I was looking at my email, and then I had something come through that was interesting. A an email come through, and I had to research it to make sure it was right because I wasn't sure actually that it was like honestly um right, and I had to double check it. And normally I don't do content on personal finance as much as people want me to do content on personal finance. I typically stay to my lane, business strategy, business stuff like that. But anyways, today we're talking about some personal finance topics because I think that it's important to at least address, because everyone out there has, whether you own a business or you work for someone, you have your own personal finance. And yeah, I know, I get it. People who watch this podcast are also people who don't own businesses. So today we're talking about a problem that could be a problem for individuals who work for a company in which they deposit their money. So essentially today what we're doing is we're talking about how 401k balances are cratering and hardship withdrawals are up. Because is this a signal of something bad to come? Is this a signal that the economy is cratering?
We have a problem. We have a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we have problems.
Do we have problems right now that we're going to have to deal with, that we're going to have to clean up, that, that are affecting people? The answer is yes. A lot of us have, the cost of inflation has gone up. And depending on what specific consumable or consumer thing we're dealing with, is where, or what area of life we're dealing with, inflation has gone up in other places way more than some other places. So in the grocery store, for instance, the cost of basic household staples is up in some cases 20, 30%, maybe 40% or more. I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. If you're watching or listening to this on YouTube, then you can just go ahead and put your comment in the comment section. Let me know, what have you seen in terms of price inflation for some of the, the homemade things that you're getting, some of those consumer staples that we're just talking about. I know for us shopping, we used to spend on average about $50 a week on groceries or so, and now we're spending something about close to $300 a week on groceries. So it's basically double for us. I don't know what it's like for you all. Maybe some of you have your own shoppers who do shopping for you. I'm just a regular Joe, man. So like my wife and I do the shopping here at the house, but like it's getting tough out there. But like, when I saw the issue with the 401k balances going down and hardship withdrawals coming up, I was like, I need to talk about this to the people who watch the show, because if you're watching this show and you're an employee, and now I get it, we're broadcasting during the middle of the day, so maybe you're not watching now, but you'll watch later. Then this is going to be a good one for you. So what I wanted to talk to you is I wanted to bring you through an article that CNBC had about 401k balances. And I wanted to then give you some solutions, like an alternative way to think about what you could do. And I think it's important that whenever you are considering taking money from certain places to pay for things, that you understand what kind of effect it could have on something else. And oftentimes the choice between where to get the money from and what to pay is like a choice between hard and harder. Like I have no savings over here in my savings account. I have no emergency fund that Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey talks about. Therefore, I have to take money from my 401k. But so let's just dive into it. All right, let's just go right into it right here. So here's the article, and in the article, it starts with saying that the average 401k balance fell 4% to $107,700 in the third quarter. So that is June, July, in August. All right. So sorry. So I always have a hard time doing this right off the bat. January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So the third quarter, July through September, the 401k balances fell 4% to $107,700 due to market volatility, it says. According to recent reports by Fidelity, the nation's largest provider of 401k plans. So Fidelity actually has the data. They are the largest provider of 401k plans in the U.S., and they're saying that they've seen balances fall to about $107,700. Now, it says the average individual retirement account balance was also down nearly 4% to $109,600 from $113,800 in the second quarter of 2023. So not only did 401ks drop 4%, IRAs also, the balances in those accounts dropped 4% as well. So down to about 109,000, 401ks to 107,000, like it just said. And it said that some of the last, so last resort 401k hardship withdrawals have gone up. Now, let's just talk about this for a second. What is a hardship withdrawal? When 401ks were created and then over time plans adapt and change, and there is legislation that is passed that governs things like retirements around the country in different states, there's always refinement made to the retirement system, which is one of the reasons, for instance, why every year, not necessarily every year, but every other year or so, maybe every year recently, the 401k balances and the IRA, 401k contributions and IRA contributions, those always change. So before you can only, for instance, contribute $18,000 to your 401k, and now it's just over $20,000. Same thing with the IRAs. You could contribute something like $5,000, and now it's upwards of $7,000, I think, going into 2024. So that's always changing. And so the rules for things like hardship withdrawals is something that was also governed, and the reason why is you want to have pretty strict limits on withdrawals because from your 401k, because the reality is that you want to encourage people to save for retirement so that there's actually something there when they go and stop working and they're not a strain on the economic system in the country. And, it just helps people live a much more comfortable life. As you know, that the Social Security Trust Fund has major issues, and there's still questions in the air about whether or not it will be available, I guess, when I retire. So, plus, you don't want to just live on Social Security. If you like traveling now, you're probably going to want to travel in the future. If you like buying certain things like once a year, furniture, stuff like that, you don't want to just live on $1,000 a month. You want to have more money available to you so that you could actually continue to enjoy life in retirement the way that you enjoyed it for the most part when you were working and earning at your peak years. So basically, there are rules. I say all that to say that there are rules that govern when, how much, and what you can take out in terms of withdrawals from your 401k without getting penalized, and if you can even do it at all. So hardship withdrawals were created for individuals when they're going through a really hard time personally, financially in their life, and they need to, have access to money that they've saved for specific purposes. So according to the IRS, there are certain times when you can do a hardship withdrawal, and the IRS talks about hardship withdrawals in this way. They say that it's defined as a distribution to the person, to the 401k holder or you, because of an immediate need and heavy financial need, and they have limited access to other resources to fund the financial need other than if they were to take that withdrawal. So in terms of a hardship distribution, you have to have an immediate and heavy need. So what is that? So you can't purchase a boat or a television. That's not considered an immediate and heavy financial need. You may not be able to, for instance, pay your rent or pay your mortgage, and you could be facing eviction. That would be an immediate financial need. Perhaps you had a medical care expenses that you had to actually take care of for your spouse or one of your dependents. Maybe you had tuition and educational fees for the next 12 months that you had to take care of, or the kid gets kicked out or something like that. Funeral expenses. These are things, prevention of eviction, like we just mentioned. These are types of fees or types of situations that people might find themselves in, according to the IRS website. Let me just show you that qualify for this, immediate and heavy financial need. So you see here, right here in this section, it says that it has to be, let's see here, right here. Medical care and expenses, costs directly related to the purchase of your principal residence. So this is you getting into your house. And this is not including like a foreclosure or an eviction, but you can't use it for that. Tuition related expenses for a child, payments necessary to prevent the eviction, medical, funeral expenses, other expenses to repair the damage to your house. These are all, and you might consider these legitimate reasons for a person using this provision of a hardship withdrawal. So now that I've been able to frame for you the hardship withdrawal, now you understand that why people have been what those withdrawals refer to, so that you can understand the fact that these types of withdrawals from 401k's are up. So back to the CNBC article where it says, in extreme circumstances, savers can take hardship distributions, which we just talked about, without incurring that 10% early withdrawal fee if there is evidence that the money is being used to cover a qualified hardship. And we just talked about which some of those are. It says the share of participants who tap such hardships withdrawals is on the rise, according to Fidelity and Bank of America. And it said that the highest reason is to avoid a foreclosure, eviction, or to cover medical expenses, Fidelity found. So this is interesting to me. If we're talking about covering foreclosures or medical expenses, what this means to me is that there's a lot of people in homes that they probably can't afford. And if they're taking hardship withdrawals, likely they are still working because they could be still working, or they could be in between jobs, and they're using their saved money to pay for these, to stay in their home. This is concerning, and this is a red flag, because this kind of just indicates that it's possible that what's coming next, and I hate to say it, is a bunch of foreclosures. Is there a wave of foreclosures coming across the country? Is it possible? So right here, it says that hardship withdrawals were up 13% from the second quarter and 27% when compared with the first quarter, with the withdrawals, with the average withdrawal amount about $5,000. So this right here is saying that there's a lot more people, and it's progressed quarter over quarter with people coming up, needing this cash. And so what are we to take from this? Well, number one, that is it possible that the housing market is going to see a lot of the supply come back on, because people they can't afford the residences that they're in. Although I just saw a statistic the other day that said something like 40% of the people with mortgages in the country have a mortgage like 2%. So like, I mean, all I'm saying is, wow, a 2% mortgage, like you would never refinance out of that. I don't think there's going to be ever a rate that's that low in the foreseeable future anytime soon. So you can forget having a rate that low again and ever needing to try to work that out. I know someone with a 2.5% rate on their mortgage right now. They refinanced into it when the rates were extremely low, and they were just like, "Yep, we're good. We're not doing anything else." So if they could continue to afford it, it's fine. But the fact that other aspects of life are so much more expensive, like we just talked about, grocery shopping, the cost of car insurance is going way up. The cost of insurance in general, medical visits is going up. The cost of life across the board, gas it's still high, even though it's come down a bit. The reality, I think, for everyday people is that it's getting the everyday things they can count on having some stability with because of the amount of inflation that's flooded in is a problem. And there's only, I tell my kids this all the time. There's only $1. Like when you're earning $1, that dollar can only get split so many ways before it becomes a real issue. And so here we are, we have this dollar. The dollar represents how much you make. And unfortunately, if you don't own a business where you can, for instance, market, get more customers, and change the trajectory of the amount of money you have coming in a fairly short time frame, then you have to deal with the fact that you only have a certain amount of money to spend. And given that you only have a certain amount of money to spend, when cost of certain things go up, you become constrained. And so as a result of this constraint, people are taking on other things to satisfy the financial needs that they have. And in this case, it's these hardship withdrawals, and the average amount of $5,000, but the amount of people doing this is going up and up and up. This is a red flag that people are having a hard time affording life right now, and a sign that there's going to be a lot of instability in the marketplace, especially with consumer spending. I wonder what's going to happen with retail as well. So the article continues to go on by saying that it talks about a record high credit card debt and a declining personal savings rate as well. And more than half of adults living in the U.S. are living paycheck to paycheck. Let's talk about this for a second. I did a video on this the other day, and not the other day, I think it was like a few weeks ago, about credit card debt. The U.S. is in about something approximating I forget the figure. It was some kind of I think it's $1 trillion of credit card debt. It was massive, I think it crossed $1 trillion of credit card debt. It was an insane amount. And the worst part of that is that it's people who aren't necessarily, everyone just assumes, I think, the people in credit card debt are people who are making, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. You'd be surprised. There's so many high earners making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 who have massive amounts of credit card debt and are trying to live and afford everyday life. Actually, I just saw a video on X the other day about a woman who was complaining. She lived in Massachusetts about it. Let me see if I can find it now, and I'll share it. Let's see. One second. It was a pretty good video, actually. She was complaining about the cost of living. And I thought it was very interesting. Of course, the people who Yeah, there's a lot of videos on TikTok about people who are complaining about the cost of living. I find that pretty interesting too. Man, it was pretty good, but this lady got slammed on X too. And I don't know why she got. Okay, so here's like a type of video. I'm going to show you. I'm going to share this one. And this is just an example of some of the videos that are coming out. And if you want me to share more, I can. But
we're all struggling each day.
I hope you can hear it.
The cost of living is quadrupled. Just to get groceries has now costed me a second mortgage. Let's be serious. I have 8 people to feed in my house. It's literally between
8 people to feed in a house? Good Lord.
to $1,400 a month.
Yeah, that's about what I was saying. Like, right? I said that our cost of living has doubled, like to about $300 a week. That's about what we pay.
Just to have groceries in my house. So now my credit, that's been great. Pretty much my entire life, because I've always believed if you can't buy it, don't have it. So I've never had credit cards till recently. Last couple of years I've had to get credit cards just to get by certain things, school clothes or certain Christmas. Let's talk about that. Extra added expenses when I'm already struggling. My mortgage gets paid every month, but it's not at the first of the month. It's definitely at the end of the month. My bills are getting paid, but I'm falling behind every single day because I have to pick and choose which bills to go behind on so I have groceries in my house. Literal groceries in my house, guys. That's not right. It's not okay. And then I wake up this morning and my dryer shit the bed. My dryer. So where the hell am I gonna? Now I don't have any more. My credit cards are maxed.
Sorry about the language. I typically don't cuss on my podcast, but these people are frustrated.
I don't have $500 extra in the bank anymore to get a dryer, or $900. I don't even know how much, but we're gonna have to add a new bill to life because mom is going to be going to the laundromat. Okay. And yes, any bill extra is an extra bill right now that I can't afford. Something's got to change. And I know I can't be the only one that's out here. I feel like everybody is silently struggling and just doing the things to get by and going into debt and trying to keep your head above water and smile on your face. And yeah, silently struggling, I feel. Am I the only one?
So this is one complaint. I've seen video. This one was actually pretty crazy. This is like 60 seconds too, but you got to watch this one too. But this is what people are going through, guys.
Hey, Rack, I'm a teacher and I can barely afford to pay rent with my salary. My salary bi-weekly is basically my rent minus $500. Guess how much my car is? $400. Guess how much insurance is? $100. Oh, yeah, that's right. You do the math. I'm left with owing money at the end of the month. That's not even with groceries.
Groceries is like the linchpin.
Holy, that's not even with groceries. I realize every single month I am transferring money out of savings into my checking, and I am not. Just had the realization in the car that I'm actually going to go into debt if I continue being a teacher. Like, genuinely.
This woman is a teacher.
Genuinely. Wow. Oh, I'm like literally having a crisis right now. I'm going to have a panic attack right now. I can't do this. I literally cannot do this. Knowing every single month that most of my money is literally like, I don't have money. Okay. I don't know how I'm going to pay off my credit card this month. I don't know. Hey, Raph.
Crazy, right? I've never seen these, but let me, not to depress you all, but you want to see more of these stories? Yeah, I can find some. X has a lot of good stuff with people talking, typically. Oh, that's the same lady. This is crazy though. This lady's story. Can't afford to fix her dryer. All right, hold on 1 second. Let's see what this lady has to say.
This is for Rishi Sunak. because you stand there and you talk about essentially a person like me,
I think this
somebody
is
who works for.
Yeah, this is the UK. We have
New York City grocery stores right now.
New York City grocery store. Wait, did you see that? $20 ground beef? I mean ground turkey? Good Lord. What do they put it on the although I'm actually, now that it's paused, it looks like it's $5.99 and not $19.99. But still, $5.99 is way more expensive than ground turkey used to be because, honestly, like ground turkey was like $3.49. If I walked in and I thought that thing was like $19.99, I might be like this.
What's wrong with you, bro? What the heck? You tripping, bro? You tripping?
Yeah. Like, seriously? I can't even believe that a person. Oh, yeah. Anyways, so it wasn't $19.99. But let's keep watching. Reese's Puff cereal, $8.59. We're commiserating right now at the cost of. Okay, you don't have money for Oreos. Get on the Oreos. That's a family pack. $6.90. What do you need a family pack of Oreos for anyway? Why? Jimmy Dean sauce. Remember that commercial back in the day? Jimmy Dean sausages. Look at this. $14.99 for a Jimmy Dean sausage.
New York City grocery store.
That's great. It's getting expensive out here, y'all. You need solutions. It's getting expensive. All that COVID money. What happened to the COVID money that you all had? That you all were. What happened to all the COVID money? Remember when all the COVID checks came out and people were buying these fancy vacations and saving it and buying all this stuff? It's all gone now. It's all gone. The cost of living is crushing people. And to my original point, it's making people go and actually dip into their 401k's because they've had this hardship that they just can't shake because it's so bad. Oh, sorry. I thought I saw something that I didn't see. There was some bare-chested dude with a meme on Twitter that looked actually pretty funny. It's kind of crazy that people are really kind of losing it over the cost of living. So let's go back to this. Let's go back to the article that we started for a second. I got a little distracted, but okay. So there are options if you'd thinking about changing or tapping into your 401k, right? So tapping into your 401k should be the absolute last resort, which is one of the reasons why some 401k providers call it the last option, hardship withdrawal. Okay. So one of the things that actually might be better for you if you can swing it is taking a 401k loan out instead of a hardship withdrawal. And here's the reason why. When you pay back a 401k loan that you've taken out of your 401k and you pay interest on that, you're paying interest back to yourself. Now, the interest on your 401k loan is typically, ready for this, the prime rate plus 1 or 2%. And it all depends on what's happening at the time of the 401k loans to try to figure out what that rate is. But it typically is the prime rate plus 1 or 2%. And the prime rate always changes on a monthly basis, but as of November 1st, the prime rate this month is 8.5%. So the interest on a 401k loan would be 8.5% plus 1 or 2%. So you're looking at 9.5 or 10%, 10.5% on your 401k loan. And why is that preferable? Well, here's the reason why. Taking a $10,000 loan on let's say you needed $10,000. Now you could open a 0% interest credit card that where you had to take $10,000 out. Now, if you needed to pay, and if you did that, let's say that you had a 0% interest card, and for the first year, okay, you took $10,000 out, or you got it. It has a $15,000 limit. You're going to use 10,000 of it to satisfy some kind of bill. Here's the problem, all right, which is that unless you can absolutely pay that $10,000 back within that 12 months to satisfy that credit card holder, get your balance down to zero, and you know that you can absolutely do it within that 12 months before that rate spikes to the regular rate of, I don't know, what a credit card interest rates right now, 23%, something like that, then you need to consider a different option. Okay. And here's the reason why. If you took a $10,000 loan out of your 401k at 9.5% or 10.5%, you could spread that loan out over the maximum of about 5 years, number one. And number two, the other thing is that you don't get a withdrawal fee like that 10%. They don't hit you with the withdrawal fee of 10%. And secondly, you don't have to pay taxes on it. All you do is you pay back into your 401k that you've taken from. So yes, you do have to pay back that loan with after-tax dollars, and then when that money comes out of your account later, you do have to pay taxes on it. So you will have to pay taxes on that money like a couple times, but it's still not going to be nearly as much as, for instance, you withdrawing money at a 23% rate. So that's something to think about. So, I mean, you could also use a HELOC if you need cash, and HELOC percentages. The key is to always protect your retirement. You don't want it to dwindle down to zero. But here's the thing, is that oftentimes people don't do the math. They just think about a solution because they're hurt by what's going on right now. But you need to move beyond that, right? Like you have to be smarter than that, especially now. How much is it going to cost me to take this money out of retirement or a credit card? Like you should weigh all that stuff, and you have to be realistic. Don't even think if your job is on the border of getting cut for whatever reason, or you perceive that there's been some kind of shift in what the stability of your company, do you think it's wise to take out a credit card to pay $10,000 that you're going to try to pay back within 12 months, but you're not exactly sure whether or not you can actually pay it all back in 12 months, versus taking a 401k hardship loan, which you can spread out for like 3 years, let's say, and the payment's going to be a half or the third of what the credit card's going to be. And if you don't pay that one on time, it goes up to, 23-24%, whereas the 401k loan would stay stable through the entire time. You have to be really careful. It seems like a good idea at first, but then if you don't do the math, then you can end up like
Free your mind.
that's the reality for people who don't plan, right? Like it seems like a great idea, you're going to make it, and the next thing you know, the dumpster, right? You hit the dumpster. You have to be absolutely careful when it comes to planning this. So here's the thing about 401k. I'm a big believer in buy and hold, the value strategy. I don't use a 401k. I'm a small business, business owner, right? So I don't have access to a 401k. I use IRAs and I use brokerage accounts. That's how I deal with my jam, right? So, but if you have the ability to put money away tax free, you should do it. You should save yourself some money now because your tax rate might be lower later, right? Think about this. You save on tax currently from the salary that you're making now by putting money into your 401k, and you save money later because you're only going to get taxed on the amount that you have coming out, right? So you're not going to get taxed on, let's say you do a 401k withdrawal when you retire of $20,000 to your checking account. You're only going to get taxed on that $20,000 at the rate that $20,000 would get taxed, not at the rate that you would get taxed if you were making $100,000 a year and you had $20,000 that way, right? Like the tax rates are gonna be completely different, and you save that $20,000 off of your $120,000 salary, which brings it down to $100,000. So you can really manipulate your tax brackets now for the sake of the future. So you have to be really careful. I don't want to give you a lecture about saving money in a 401k and the tax benefits from that, because I think that based off of what you already know about 401ks, you should be absolutely fine. But you should take as a warning the fact, always take a note of what's going on in the public. So what can you do instead if you're considering doing a 401k hardship withdrawal? Do the math. Always count the cost. Is what you would pay the loan back, that percentage, going to be more or less based off of what the interest rate is? Because it's a simple interest rate based off the interest rate is versus a credit card or some other kind of card. Can you take a HELOC loan out instead, which has a lower interest rate and it's coming from the equity in your house anyway? Do you have other options such as that, rather than to steal from your future to do something today, right? And I know that there's so many people that's hurting. Here's the other thing. Sometimes to offset the interest, and I know no one's going to want to hear this because we all feel like we work enough. Trust me, I get it. But let's say inflation went up to 10%, which I think, let's see what the inflation rate is today. Okay, right now, our current inflation rate is at 3.24%. Okay. Which is much better than it was last year. Last year, the inflation rate was crazy. It was like over 7-8%. So the inflation rate has come down. The inflation percentage rate, but the absolute cost of everyday life has still gone up. It hasn't adjusted with the inflation rate because the cost of supplies and everything else. So here's the thing. It's like a ship, right? You can't just stop a ship dead on, right? It takes time to start, turn around, and all the other stuff. So if the inflation rate was super high just a year ago, and all these supplies or inventory and cost of goods to create products that are now being sold was 8% higher like a year ago, then the cost of those products are going to be 8% higher today, until a company is able to produce those products, well, unless they want to eat part of that margin, assuming that they're not going to, give you any largesse and eat part of that percentage, they're going to pass it on to you. So like all the products are going to be 8% higher, right? And that's kind of where it is right now. And so as a result of that, the cost of living, even right now, even is trailing inflation, right? Inflation rate has come down a bit, but like the cost of living is legit trailing. How a person can deny that is a little silly. I showed you just two examples of individuals online who have expressed frustration and sorrow over the current cost of living. But I don't know. What's your experience? What is your I want to hear from you. Okay. So what is your cost of inflation? What is your cost of living? Here's what I want to know. All right. I want to know, if you care to share, what is your rent or mortgage? How much you spend a week on groceries, and how much a week do you spend on gas? Right. Put that in the comment section and let me know what your cost of living is. I'm actually really interested in hearing stories from people from around the country who are listening and watching this podcast. And if you want to, so put your thoughts in the comments, or if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, shoot me an email at info@thecommonsenspodcast.com and let me know directly, like, what is your cost of living and what's going on in your area. Tell me what the area of the country you live in is, and then let me know what the cost of living is like. Because I want to do like another show where I kind of put it out there, and it'd be interesting to see how people are managing this. But I was going to make one more point. So my last point is this, is that if the cost of living in your area, or currently you're experiencing like a 10 to 15% increase in how much the cost of living is in your area, which you may want to consider actually is, you may want to consider getting a side hustle, starting a side hustle. Because if you're making $100,000 and the cost of living in your area is 10% higher, that means that of the $100,000 that you're making, 10,000 extra dollars are going to what it costs you that it normally wouldn't cost you to just live life in that, in that specific area that you live in. So how do you make up the gap of that 0 to 10,000 extra? Well, have you considered that it's about $800 and some change a month to overcome that $10,000 increase per year and that cost of living increase? So is there a way that you can make an extra $800 just to kind of feel like you have the same, like you have a hold on the same life that you had, or quality of life that you had before? And you have to be careful of, life, like lifestyle creep. And I get it. Maybe you're making more money than you ever have before, but at the same time, which you may not be accounting for, is the fact that you're spending more money than you ever have before, and so it's putting some kind of doubt. You're putting pressure on yourself. This cost of living is putting the pressure on you from the top, and then your lifestyle creep is putting pressure on you from the bottom, and so you probably get squeezed. So control what you can control. Don't overspend. Maybe cut your credit cards down from 5 to 3 or 2 if you can, and do your best. You may have to side hustle. You may have to up your work week from 40 hours that you're normally used to 50 hours a week, just to kind of give yourself a little stability. All right. Anyways, glad I was able to hang out with you today and talk to you about this. I found this topic really interesting. And I know life is super hard. I'm thinking about doing a podcast where I go over some of these interesting cost of living increase TikToks. I might react to some cost of living TikToks just to kind of see what it's like, or even the cost of doing business, like small business owner TikToks, because I think those are actually pretty cool. And it would be interesting to kind of like just try to figure out what people are doing now for that. But I have some interesting podcasts coming up, just so you're aware. And also I establish a community for viewers and listeners of the Common Sense Show. I know that you gurus have been with me for quite some time, and you're listening and watching from all over the world. So I wanted to create a place where we can all talk together. In addition to me just doing these podcasts, where we can have like live community chats. We can just kind of hang and talk business growth, wealth building income producing assets. So I created a locals community. And so it's called, to get there, it's the commonsenseshow.locals.com. The commonsenseshow.locals.com. And for $7 a month, you're going to have exclusive access to, I'm going to do Q&As. There's going to be a member community live chat. There's going to be episodes of the podcast that come out prior to it coming out on YouTube. And I'm starting with this episode. So here's what I'm going to do here. I'm live streaming this on YouTube. This show will be live on YouTube for the next 48 hours. And then I'm going to move this to my locals community, commonsenseshow.locals.com. And for less than $2 a day, you can be part of it's even less than that. Less than $2 a day. That's super generous. Let's see. I think it's only, it's less than a quarter a day. Less than a quarter a day, you can join a vibrant community like this, where we talk business, building revenue in your business, turning things around in your business, and kind of directing your energies into building sustainable businesses that create income producing assets for you, that turn your business into an income producing asset so you can run a legit high level business. Yeah, let's do it. I'm building a movement. I'm building a community, and I want you to be a part of it. commonsenseshow.locals.com. Come join, only $7 a month, and let's keep you going. All right. Until next time, I'm Micah. If you don't go about building your business, you're going to be going about building the business of someone else. I'm out of here.